President Robert Mugabe is under observation at a hospital in Singapore. In a press release, President Emmerson Mnangagwa revealed that Mugabe's doctors have advised that he be kept under observation for longer than the routine time he often spends there. According to the statement, the former president of Zimbabwe has been under observation since early April. Mnangagwa says he sent a high-level delegation to check on Mugabe's progress and says he is happy with the progress he is making. And the former president of Zimbabwe is said to be responding well to treatment. Let's get the latest now on this. Sophie Mokoena is in studio with us. She's a foreign editor. Sophie, thank you very much indeed for coming through. Let's just get an update with regards to the health of the former Zimbabwean president.
Yes, you are aware that he often goes to Singapore for medical checkup. He went there earlier this year, and apparently he hasn't been back in the country because of the current challenges he's facing. You know that he's quite old, and therefore, you know, when coming to senior citizens, you always experience a situation where they are in and out of hospital. But he is still in hospital, according to the government. But what transpired last night, after I posted on Twitter what the president said and the feedback in terms of what's happening to former President Robert Mugabe, I then received a message from one of the family members, Jealous Mawarir, telling me that actually he is not in hospital, but he is in Singapore. So I'm still battling to verify whether what President Emmerson Mnangagwa said yesterday is still what's happening, that he is in hospital. Or perhaps what Jealous told me, that he is now out of hospital, but he is still in Singapore, is true. And it's very difficult to be able to verify that information because we don't have access to the family. I've tried on many occasions to try and speak to former First Lady Grace Mugabe. It's very, very difficult. So we'll continue to chase the story, but he is still in Singapore. If
we follow what President Mnangagwa says, do we know what the former president is being treated for?
No, they wouldn't divulge, but clearly in terms of age and, you know...
He's 95,
he is, he's 95, and therefore, you know, when you are 95, you are likely to experience different challenges in terms of health.
Look, talk to us about the former president is frequently visiting Singapore for medical observation. We know that the vice president, Chiwenga, also recently visited China. I'm not sure if he's still there for medical observation as well. What does that say about Zimbabwe's health system?
Well, clearly we know that Zimbabwe's health system has collapsed due to the economic challenges facing that country. We know that it has been years of disaster in terms of infrastructure and facilities in that country, even though you have people in terms of personnel who are quite good and very educated nation who can deliver in terms of ensuring that you have the best health facilities or perhaps assistance in that country, but there are no facilities. We were told that China has volunteered to build a clinic, and they are hoping that more countries will do that. And even today, in terms of challenges facing that country, we expect the World Food Programme today to call on the international community to assist Zimbabwe. This is based on the impact of drought and Cyclone Idai, and also generally the challenges in that country. You don't have health facilities. But the question is, if politicians and high-profile people who are supposed to ensure that you have the best health facilities cannot use the very same facilities in that country, you expect your ordinary people to use those facilities. What does it say about our leaders on the continent?
President Mnangagwa putting out this statement, keeping the nation abreast of the current health condition of the former president. How would you describe his recent relationship with the Mugabes?
They did mend the relations. You'd recall that when former First Lady's mother of Grace Mugabe passed on, it was President Emmerson Mnangagwa who made arrangements that she comes back in Zimbabwe to bury her mother and assisted the family with all the burial requirements. But secondly, you are aware that he is trying by all means to ensure that President Mugabe is fine in terms of what's due to him, even though you'd recall just before elections, President Mugabe indicated that sometimes he's struggling. And you'd recall the famous word, "I will not vote for those who tormented me." Therefore, but since that funeral, we are told the relations have improved.
Yeah.
But you'll never know. But one thing that I do know, you'd recall that when you look at that picture, that's the interview I conducted with him, the last interview with the media, not the press conference. I sensed a man who is very, very angry, who is very bitter, who feels betrayed. So I'm not so sure whether he has finally made peace with what has happened.
Yeah. Do the Mugabes, does Robert Mugabe himself still hold sway in Zimbabwe?
Not so much, truth be told, but you still have people who do believe in him. And with the current situation where Emmerson Mnangagwa is battling to rebuild the country, people believe that Mugabe was better than Mnangagwa. Others arguing that they were together. Whatever happened during Mugabe's time, Mnangagwa was there as a vice president, as a minister, in many different levels of administration. Therefore, some people are saying there's no change, and they can't expect one because they were together. Others are saying, at least Mugabe, there were certain things that they were able to get, even though the situation was difficult. For example, now we are told that the government intends to reverse the indigenization policy. You'd imagine those who have benefited are likely to be aggrieved. Therefore, it depends who you speak to. But that country is facing serious economic challenges. And unfortunately, the neighboring countries are having their own challenges. So it's very difficult to really zoom into what's happening in Zimbabwe. But Zimbabwe is in a crisis.
Can we assume that Grace Mugabe is at the side of her husband?
Yeah, she is in Singapore. She is in Singapore, as I indicated. I don't know whether he's still in hospital because a close friend saying that no, he's not in hospital. But Grace Mugabe, certainly, she is in Singapore.
Let's just shift focus now and move over to Mozambique. There's a very, very important agreement, peace and reconciliation agreement being signed today in Mozambique. And we understand that our president, Cyril Ramaphosa, will be present as well. Just tell us more.
Yes, President Ramaphosa is expected to land in Maputo at around 10-15 minutes from now. I was actually speaking to international relations, one of the officials there, telling me that the Minister of International Relations will receive the president at the airport. The president is going to attend this ceremony today where Renamo and the government, both parties will sign a peace agreement after years of confrontation and conflict. Many lives were lost. And as the country prepared to go to elections, it looks like there's some relative peace. And the question is, will this peace hold?
Yeah, that's the big question. And just tell us about the significance of South African head of state being present there, because South Africa and Mozambique share a cordial political bilateral relation as well.
Yes, as you are aware that President Ramaphosa will soon take over the reins of being the president of the Security Council after the General Assembly in September, the rotation, because South Africa is part of the non-permanent members of the Security Council. He holds a powerful position. And you know that the Security Council deals with issues of peace and security, and this is part of peace and security process. And secondly, he is going to take over as the chair of the African Union in January next year. Therefore, it is important as the incoming chair to familiarize himself with political situation on the continent, but not only that, also the economic situation. And also he will be attending the SADC meeting in Tanzania, where you have a SADC heads of state meeting that will be looking at issues of challenges facing the region, that is SADC, and progress in the region, issues of political relations, peace and stability, and also trade and investment. Therefore, it is important for him to be in that country to witness this important milestone.
As you know, when you sit here, we try to cover a wide scope of areas. I know there was a recent sitting, just before we leave, a recent sitting with regards to the Pan-African Parliament. Just tell us a bit more about that. How did that go?
Well, it's continuing.
Yeah.
In fact, more delegates and the discussions at the Pan-African Parliament at different committees, and we expect the new members to be introduced back to the Pan-African Parliament, and also South Africa will be represented at the Pan-African Parliament.
You no doubt will keep us up to date with the latest from there. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you, Blaine.
All right. Sophie Mokoena is SABC foreign editor. We're going to take a quick break. We'll get you some sports news.